This is Sumbul Sang with episode number 4 of the Start a New Show featuring Kelly Roach.
Does your work energize you? Does it make your impact on the world? Welcome to Start Anew, the show that looks beyond success into freedom, fulfillment, and your passion-driven career. Join your host, Sumbul Sang, for inspiring stories and bite-sized training to help you start anew with clarity. And now, here's Sumbul.
Hey there, starters. Thank you for tuning in to Motivation Monday for part 1 of my interview with Kelly Roach. If you haven't heard of her before, she's a business and peak performance coach and author of one of my new favorite books, Unstoppable: 9 Principles for Unlimited Success in Business and in Life. Today, Kelly shares a story of her transformation from a successful executive to a fulfilled entrepreneur. She goes deep with what made her quit her executive role with a Fortune 500 company, how she came to realize that starting her own business was the next step for her, and best of all, she shares the key business strategies that rocked her business from day one, and you can download them at letstartanew.com/4. Kelly, hello and welcome to the show.
Hey there. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Kelly, I'm really excited to talk to you about your book and some of the exciting things that you're doing. But first, let's take a step back in time when you were an executive of a Fortune 500 company. Paint us a picture of your life at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So before certainly what was the biggest transformation of my life, I was a Fortune 500 executive. I had dedicated, every waking moment for almost a decade and was promoted 7 times in 8 years. I was running 17 branches. I was traveling all over the country. I was training hundreds of people and really just became very burnout and exhausted, really working very long hours, not taking care of my health, not eating properly, not exercising, which any of you that know me, I'm a former NFL cheerleader. So that was a big deal for me. I had really compromised a lot of who I was just to kind of keep up with the lifestyle of being this executive and to keep up with the demands of the responsibilities that I had. And so that's kind of where I was before I started, my business, Kelly Roach Coaching.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to being burnt out in their jobs. So on the outside, it seems like you're living the dream, but it's not quite feeling like that on the inside, is it?
No. And I think that's the hardest part, right? So for me, I had everything that I had worked for. I got exactly what my dream was. And I think the hardest part was that I had spent so many years working towards this and I had put in the work and I had gotten the results. And on the outside, it all looked perfect and beautiful. And it was exactly what I was striving for. But at the end of the day, why I knew it wasn't a choice. I must make a change. I must start my own business. I must follow my passion was not only was it damaging on the outside to me in how I looked and how I felt, but it was even more damaging on the inside. My soul, my heart hurt. I was not fulfilling what I felt was living out my potential as a human being. And, that's why I knew I had to do something. I could not just continue on the path that I was on.
So you realize that things must change. But how does that make you feel? Do you feel fear?
Oh, so much. I think definitely the hardest part is starting over. Change is hard for anyone, but going from being at the top of your field, at the top of your game, knowing everyone, having respect and trust and having worked towards a reputation for so many years, and then starting over from zero, from absolutely nothing, and I did not quit my job and go start my business. I started my business on the side, but regardless, as far as going from the top of your field to the absolute bottom, it's tough. You have all of those natural feelings of fear and, is this going to succeed? And how am I going to do this? Am I going to be able to pull this off? All of those feelings that everyone experiences when they think about making a major life change. It's really, really tough, especially when everything seemingly seems comfortable and kind of looks the part on the outside. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And thanks for being transparent with your feelings. So how did you overcome these fears that you just talked about? Was there a mentor that helped you out, or was it just the power of your mind?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it was the deep yearning to fulfill my potential. You know, yes, I am always in coaching programs. I'm always signing up for different trainings. And I have now my team, I put them all in training programs and coaching and, you know, make sure that they're learning and growing. And yes, that was absolutely a huge part of my journey as far as accelerating my timeline for success. But in terms of really finding the drive and finding the strength to push through the fear and to push through the, you know, uncertainty, it was really just the why. It was my why as a human being, because when I realized that I was unhappy and I realized that I did not want this life that I had created, and I knew I was in charge of that. I had created that life and I could also create a new life. You know, when I knew I needed to make that change, I really did a lot of soul searching and reflection. And I asked myself, you know, what are my values? What are my values? What is important to me? What do I want the constructs of my life to look like? And I was very, very intentional about getting clear on those first, and then making sure that, you know, straw by straw, brick by brick, as I built my own business, that it was constructed exactly and precisely to align with those values. And to me, my top three values are freedom, fulfillment, and financial abundance. And I knew that there was no way that I could bring those three things together in a corporate setting. The only way that I could do that was, you know, in my own business.
Starters, speaking of values and clarity, I have created a checklist for you of free tools that you can use to get more clear on your work values. You can download it for free at letstartanew.com. So Kelly, now that you are clear on what your next path is going to be, what is the first action you take that really commits you to it?
The first action that I committed was I signed up for a year-long online business coaching program. And the reason why I did that was that my background was in traditional sales and marketing. And that's what I had been teaching. And that's how I helped my company, that I had been working for prior to. I helped them build millions and millions of dollars of business. And that's why they had me traveling around and training and teaching all these people. But what I had never done was online marketing. And because I knew that freedom was going to be so important to the growth of my business, I wanted to make sure that I became an expert in online marketing so that I could protect that core value of mine, which was freedom. And so I knew I wanted to build an online business. So the very first thing that I did that really committed me to that was I signed up for an online program. And I said, why am I going to flounder around for years trying to figure this out myself when I can go and I can learn from someone who's already done it and I can learn it in a year, right? So that was really the first big action for me.
I'm a firm believer myself that the fastest way to get where we want to be is to learn from someone who's already there. For the benefit of our listeners, do you mind telling us what was this 1-year-long online program that you took?
Sure, absolutely. Allie Brown. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with her or not. She's doing a lot less work, in the broader spectrum now, but she's really kind of like the matriarch of online coaching for women. And her program was unbelievable. And what's interesting enough about it is, not only did I earn way more than what I spent in the program very quickly, but I actually got some of my very best clients that are still with me today through networking in that program. And that's what people always hesitate to invest in themselves and hesitate to invest in their businesses. When it is not an expense, it's an investment as long as you do the work. And that's what people don't understand. I laid out a few $1,000s, boom, before I even had a client, but I knew I was going to ultimately make money from it because I knew I was committed to doing the work. And that's exactly what happened.
A bit earlier, you talked about getting clear on why you wanted a brand new career and what were going to be the constructs of that new career in life. But a lot of people struggle with that clarity. What is your advice to those who also want to start anew but don't know where to start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's talk about that. I get people that come to me all the time and say, I've wanted to start a business for years, but I don't want to know what to do. Or I hate my job and I just want to get out. It's killing me. I'm exhausted, but I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to start a business or whatever. So there's a couple different elements to going from stuck and frustrated in a job to becoming a successful entrepreneur. And you're right. The very first one is the clarity. And what I always tell people, I'm a simple girl and I like to focus on things that you can do simply and easily on a piece of notebook paper. So what I tell people is you draw 2 circles. On the left, You fill in the circle that has your competencies. What are you competent in? What are your strengths? What are the things that people always come to you for? What are the things that you know that you're the best at, that you really enjoy doing, that bring you happiness or joy or fulfillment? So on the left, you're going to fill all those things in that circle. And then you're going to draw another circle that overlaps with that. And in that circle, you're going to write, how are those things that could be monetized? What businesses, business models, businesses, or individuals exist today that are currently taking those things on the left circle that you just wrote down and making them into a successful business? And the intersection of those two circles, your competencies, your joy, your fulfillment, and your capabilities combined with the things that people are willing to pay money for, that is where your genius lies. That is where you can take who you are and the natural God-given gifts that you are being provided with and use them to make an impact in the world as an entrepreneur. And I really do believe that everyone has that intersection in the middle, if you choose to tap into it, that's waiting there for you.
Kelly, thank you for sharing that strategy with us. Starters, Kelly is dropping value bombs today. To get a list of all the strategies that Kelly talks about today that you can apply to your own business, go to letstartanew.com/4 and download your free cheat sheet. Kelly, let's get back into your journey. Now that you have committed yourself to starting your own business, tell us the story step by step of how you went from that point to running a successful business full time.
Definitely taking my business online and investing in Facebook marketing was the huge catalyst for very rapid growth in my business. I'll say that was a big, big milestone. And I started doing that pretty quickly. And that was why I was so quickly able to make pretty big leaps in my income and the growth of my business. So the Facebook marketing was a huge leap forward. And then getting clear on my best conversion strategies. So definitely how I was then going to take those leads and monetize them was the next big step. So first it was like, I have to get consistent leads. Okay, Facebook marketing, that got me started with that. Then it was like, okay, now I need to take these leads and I need to convert them into paying clients. And for me, that was through doing consultations over the phone and webinars and PR and podcasting. So it was then getting clear on what the conversion strategy was going to be. And then the third big thing was just really getting stronger and better every single day at repurposing content and really having a stellar content strategy so that as new leads are coming in my funnel each week, that they're staying warm, that they're building that affinity and trust with me, and then I'm getting them kind of prepped and primed and ready to convert when I do hold that next conversion event. So I think getting that 3-step system in place has been absolutely huge. And then, I would combine with that, building my team. Building out my team is really what has been able to just really thrust the business forward because there's only so much that one person can do.
Absolutely. So at what point in this journey did you go from being a solopreneur to starting your own team?
Oh, that's a great question. So let me just think for a second. I started by outsourcing and hiring virtual assistants. So first I just outsourced and hired virtual assistants. Then once it started growing and building in hours, I transitioned from using outsourcing to insourcing, and I basically moved over to contractors. And I want to say probably like a year in or a year and a half in is when I really started building my own team of contractors and, support people that were my own instead of outsourcing. And I do still outsource some things from time to time if it's in a specialized area or something that my team isn't able to handle given the workload or I don't want to invest in doing extensive training with them for a one-off situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You sound like a really reasonable boss.
Thank you. I try to be. I push my team hard, but I also try to always put myself in their shoes as well.
Tell us, what were the biggest challenges you faced in this journey of starting your own online business?
With running an online business, I think that one of the biggest challenges, and it's still a challenge that we face now, is that, we're signing up and using new tools and different programs on almost a weekly basis. If you're staying current in the online marketing world, things are changing so fast that what you used 6 months ago becomes out of date, and you're always finding new and better and different things that you want to upgrade to in order to have new functionality in what what you're doing. And in order to do that, it takes a lot of work. I mean, we made the transition earlier this year from one shopping cart over to Infusionsoft because we wanted to be able to use a lot more of the behavioral based marketing. And, that's been a huge learning curve, and that's a lot of time for myself and the team that is not being utilized on the core functions of what we want to do to grow. So I think just, one of the struggles and challenges of being an entrepreneur, and there's really nothing you can do about it, is just the fact that the change is constant and you have to be really flexible. You have to be really flexible. You have to understand when you're doing a launch that everything that can go wrong will. And you have to be ready to think on your feet and have a plan B and keep moving forward. Does that make sense?
Starters, great advice from Kelly. Keep moving forward and have plan Bs and Cs. So Kelly, now that you have completely reinvented yourself from a burnt out employee, first to a hustler who's hustling on her business part-time, to running a successful business full-time, tell us, what does this new life look like? And most importantly, how does it feel like?
Being an entrepreneur, I think, is the greatest gift and opportunity that we all have available to us in this lifetime. And I know that not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur, but for those of us that have that hunger and that desire, the fact that we have the freedom to do that is just absolutely amazing. And, for me, being an entrepreneur now, I have 100% confidence in my ability to earn the income that I know that I deserve and that I want to achieve to support my family. But I have the power and the control and the ability to do it, on my own terms. And there is no price tag that you can ever put on that. And so absolutely, where I felt a few years back before I started my business versus today is night and day. It's a world of difference. And, beyond just the monetary aspects of what you can achieve as an entrepreneur and the freedom aspects of what you can achieve, just the fulfillment and the everyday joy and excitement of doing the work that you love and that you feel you were put here to do. To me, that's just, it's an irreplaceable gift that I feel so lucky to have in my life.
There are so many valuable insights to be learned from what you just said. In fact, there are so many lessons to be learned from your story in general. If new Kelly could talk to the old Kelly, what is the one thing she would like to say to her?
Start your business sooner. Really, start your business sooner and never, ever compromise your health and wellness to get to a business or a career goal. Because if you ever lose your health, if you ever lose your wellness, everything that you're working towards will be completely wiped away. Those are really the two things.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Start Anew Show. We invite you to be more than a passive listener. Be a starter. Join our community and snag exclusive freebies from Symbol and her guests at letstartanew.com. Create your vision of freedom and fulfillment right here on the Start Anew Show.